Hello everyone, hope you all are well at your home. We were discussing the topic normal labor. We have discussed up to the effect of normal labor on fetal head. Continuing the same topic further today, we will talk about management of the normal labor. Management of normal labor includes management of labor in all the three stages, first, second and third stage. So we start with the management of the first stage of labor. First, the purpose of management. Why we require to manage the first stage of labor. First aim is to prepare a patient for safe vaginal delivery during the second stage, because delivery occurs in the second stage. So when you get the patient in the first stage, especially priming gravida, she has the anxiety about the labor. She has the anxiety how will she pass through this process. So being a doctor, your duty is to convince the patient, assure the patient regarding the process of labor, that you have to assure her that everything will go fine. She doesn't need to worry about it, right? So the psychological preparation of the patient is very, very important. And the second aim is to detect any developing abnormality at the earliest. If we can detect this developing abnormality in the first stage of labor, we can minimize it, we can find its solution. And above all, we have to manage a patient of labor, a case of labor, under all aseptic precautions. So we have to maintain the aseptic precautions. When you get the patient of normal labor, patient is in the first stage of labor, labor pains have started. Before you take the patient on examination table, emptying of the bladder is must. Because if the bladder is full and when you attempt for the vaginal examination, the evacuation of urine may occur during the examination. This may create the awkward situation, because you know the position, relative position of the bladder and uterus, they are very closer. Bladder is in front and uterus behind, right? So if bladder is full, there may be evacuation of the urine. So before you examine the patient, her bladder should be made empty. Now how to do it? Patient is in the first stage of labor, cervix is not yet fully dilated, so you can ask her to go to washroom to empty her bladder by her own. Woman can pass urine, can evacuate the bladder by her own. If patient is in the second stage, bladder is not emptied by her own, because second stage means cervix completely dilated. So when she goes to washroom, when she attempts to pass urine by her own, sometimes it may happen that during the passage of urine, during micturition, there may be sudden delivery of the child, right? The baby may stuck against the lavatory pan. You must have heard the term of precipitate labor, sudden delivery of the child. When the head strikes against the lavatory pan, the newborn may get the head injury and the newborn can even die. So to avoid all these complications, for the betterment of the fetus, in the second stage, woman cannot empty her bladder by her own, but in the first stage, as the cervix is not completely dilated, there are no chances of expulsion of the fetus, woman can pass urine by her own, right? Then shaving of the vulva. If woman has not done it by her own at her home, sometimes it happens that when woman goes to the hospital, she cleans her vagina in advance. But if it is not done by the patient, you have to remove the pubic hair by shaving. External genitals, inner side of the thighs and lower abdomen, they should be cleaned with the antiseptic solution. Like you can apply betadine and you can clean these areas, right? Bowel evacuation is done by giving enema. The woman is given enema for the bowel evacuation. The woman cannot stretch or cannot strain to pass stool, because such straining may also cause expulsion of the fetus, or it may cause sudden delivery of the baby. That is not much possible in the first stage. Still we have to take the precaution. So for the bowel evacuation, patient is given enema. Then we have to do the PV examination. From the PV examination, we can get certain information like degree of cervical dilatation, that is in centimeter. It starts from 2 centimeter and ends with 10 centimeter. So 10 centimeter means complete or full cervical dilatation. So up to what extent cervix is dilated, that we have to know from the PV examination. Then status of the membranes, that is amniotic sac, whether it is ruptured or intact. Till amniotic sac is intact, the fetus is safe in the uterus, in the amniotic sac. So till these membranes are intact, nothing we have to worry about. Fetus is safe. We are not concerned how long the first stage lasts. Till the membranes are intact, the fetus is safe. But once membranes rupture, amniotic fluid escapes, amniotic fluid comes out, and so in the absence of the amniotic fluid, the fetus may dry gradually, or fetus will not remain safe for longer time in the absence of the amniotic fluid, right? So we have to check whether the membranes are intact or ruptured. How can we know it? When we do the PV examination, if membranes are intact, we can palpate the fetal presenting part through the membrane. That is a feeling you can get when you do the PV examination. When you introduce your 2 fingers, you will palpate the fetal presenting part. If membranes are intact, you can palpate the fetal presenting part through the membranes. If membranes have ruptured, you can directly palpate the fetal presenting part. Now these feeling you can get only when you examine the patient, when you do the PV examination of the patient who is in labor, right? Certain things cannot be explained much only by description. Something you have to experience by your own. So what difference you get in that feeling, that you can know only when you do the PV examination of the patient who is in labor. Okay? Then you can also get the information about the presenting part of the fetus, whether it is the vortex or breech. If it is vortex presentation, you will have hard feeling through the fingers on PV examination. If it is breech, you will have the soft feeling. And its position, whether it is LOA or ROA. We are talking about normal labor, so we are concerned only with the normal position. Normal positions are LOA and ROA. Only the anterior positions are normal. The posterior positions are abnormal. So we can get whether the position is LOA or ROA. Presence of the caput or molding of the head. If it has started, we can get it. Caput forms only after the rupture of the membrane. So if you find the membranes ruptured, you have to check whether caput has formed on the fetal head or not. One more thing you should try to get, you should look for after the rupture of the membranes. What is the color of the amniotic fluid? Otherwise, amniotic fluid is just like water, it is colorless. But when fetus has passed meconium inside the uterus, amniotic fluid may be meconium stained. So when you find that on PV examination, membranes are ruptured, look for the color of the amniotic fluid. Because after rupture of the membranes, amniotic fluid will escape. So you can see the color of the amniotic fluid, whether it is colorless or it is meconium stained. Meconium is the blackish first stool passed by the newborn. Newborn means passed after delivery. Normally, newborn passes the first stool within 24 hours after the birth. So, usually meconium is passed after the birth. But if meconium is passed before birth, it can be the abnormal condition. Now, whether to consider these condition abnormal or not, again depends on the presentation. If it is normal presentation, the buttocks are at fundus. In vortex presentation, buttocks are at fundus. Buttocks are away from the pressure. So, fetus will usually not pass meconium before birth. But even though in vortex presentation, meconium is passed before birth, that means something is abnormal. Something has gone wrong. Fetus is not safe. Passage of meconium before birth in breech presentation, it is quite normal. Because in breech presentation, buttocks are at lower pole, buttocks faces the pelvic floor resistance, buttocks are under pressure. So it is quite possible that it is likely that the fetus passes meconium before birth, right? So condition is the same, but when to consider it normal, when to consider it abnormal, that you should be able to make out, because all obstetric conditions are emergency. You cannot waste time. Without delay, you require the patient to refer. You have to send the patient to gynecologist because the case has gone beyond your limit. So you should be very clear about your limits. You can conduct normal delivery with the help of the homeopathic medicines, but when the case is going beyond your limit, you should be able to make it out immediately so that you can refer that patient to gynecologist immediately, right? So passage of meconium before birth in vertex presentation indicates abnormality. Passage of meconium in breech presentation is quite normal. You don't have to worry about in such cases, right? So these you have to know from the PV examination. Further, in the management of the first stage, when cervical dilatation is not full or when pains are dull, patient may be asked to walk about. In the first stage, you can ask the patient to walk in the lobby of the hospital. Distant walking is not advisable, but in the nearby areas of the labor room, the patient can walk about because walking improves uterine blood flow. So it will improve uterine contractions. And when uterine contractions improve, the labor pain also improves. So when the labor pain is dull, along with the homeopathic drugs, you can also advise the patient to walk in the lobby or passage of the hospital. Assure the patient regarding the process of labor that I explained you in the aims of the management. Especially in the priming gravida patient who is anxious regarding the process of the labor, you have to assure her, you have to prepare her mentally regarding the process of labor. Orally only water intake is allowed. Patient should not take anything solid orally. So solid food must be avoided. We have to keep the patient's stomach empty. This is for the safer side. It is you can say a step for the precaution. Suppose if normal labor does not progresses and you require to refer the patient to gynecologist, where gynecologist decides for immediate emergency cesarean section. You must be knowing that before any surgery, anesthesia is given, and anesthesia is usually given empty stomach. જો પ્લાન સર્જરી હોય તો ડૉક્ટર તમને આગલા દિવસ રાતથી કંઈ પણ ઓરલી લેવાનું ના પાડી દે કે રાત્રે 10 વાગ્યા પછી કંઈ જ ખાવા પીવાનું નહીં અને સવારે 8 વાગે હોસ્પિટલમાં આવી જવાનું. સો ધીસ ઇઝ પોસિબલ ફોર ધ પ્લાન સર્જરી. બટ સપોઝ ઇફ ધ CS is decided in emergency, if patient's stomach is full, when the effect of the anesthesia gets over, patient will have vomiting. If stomach is full, frequent profuse vomiting will be there, and this will stretch her abdominal muscles. In cesarean section, the incision has been put, the stitches are fresh. If abdominal wall is much stretched, it is quite possible that these stitches may break, they may tear. Right? So to avoid all these things, for the safer side, patient is given nothing orally. Sometimes patient feels thirsty during labor. So at that time you can give sip of water. So very little water given at a time. You cannot give a glass of water to the patient at a time. Right? So few amount of water at a time can be allowed, not the larger amount. Then abdomen should be palpated for uterine contraction. Whether the contractions are occurring or not, that can be known through abdominal palpation. What you find non-uterine contraction? abdomen gets hard. Whenever contraction comes, abdomen gets hard. Now you know contractions are not continuous. These contractions are intermittent. So contractions occur after sometimes, after few minutes, relaxation occurs, retraction occurs. After some time again contraction occurs. So these contractions are intermittent. So when the contraction comes, the abdomen gets hard. When the contraction passes off, abdomen gets soft, right? So you can get these contractions through abdominal palpation. In the first stage of labor, the woman should not take bearing down effort. Bearing down efforts are the efforts done to cause expulsion of the fetus. તમારામાંથી જેણે પણ લેબર જોયું હોય એણે કદાચ એવું ઓબ્ઝર્વ કર્યું હશે કે નર્સ કે જે પણ ડૉક્ટરને આસિસ્ટ કરતા હોય એનો એક હાથ પેશન્ટના એબ્ડોમેન પર હોય અને જ્યારે કોન્ટ્રેક્શન આવે, જ્યારે હાર્ડનેસ ફીલ થાય ત્યારે એ પેશન્ટને એવું કે દરદ લે. ધીસ દરદ ઇઝ બેરિંગ ડાઉન એફર્ટ. ઇટ ઇઝ જસ્ટ લાઇક સ્ટ્રેનિંગ ડન ટુ પાસ આઉટ ધ કોન્સ્ટિપેટેડ સ્ટૂલ. તમને કોન્સ્ટિપેશન થઈ ગયું હોય અને સ્ટૂલ પાસ કરવા માટે તમે જેવું સ્ટ્રેઇન કરો, સેમ એવું જ સ્ટ્રેઇન બેરિંગ ડાઉન એફર્ટમાં કરવાનું હોય બેબીના એક્સપલ્જન માટે. જેટલું મધર પ્રોપર બેરિંગ ડાઉન એફર્ટ લે એટલું જ ફિટલ ડિસેન્ટ થાય અને ફિટસનું એક્સપલ્જન થાય, એટલે કે ડિલિવરી થાય, એનું બર્થ થાય, બરાબર. પણ ઇન ધ ફર્સ્ટ સ્ટેજ ઓફ લેબર, the cervix is not completely dilated, so no chances of the delivery in the first stage. That's why the woman should not take bearing down effort in the first stage. Bearing down effort જો ફર્સ્ટ સ્ટેજમાં જ લે તો શું થાય, એની એનર્જી વેસ્ટ જાય, બિકોઝ બેરિંગ ડાઉન એફર્ટ્સ રિક્વાયર એનર્જી, એટલે એની એનર્જી વેસ્ટ થાય. આઉટકમ કંઈ નીકળે નહીં. આઉટકમ શું? એક્સપલ્જન ઓફ ધ ફીટસ. એ તો થવાનું નથી ફર્સ્ટ સ્ટેજમાં, એટલે એનર્જી તો વેસ્ટ થાય, એનું આઉટકમ કશું નીકળે નહીં. અને ખરેખર સેકન્ડ સ્ટેજમાં જ્યારે બેરિંગ ડાઉન એફર્ટ લેવાની આવે એ વખતે પેશન્ટ એક્ઝોસ્ટેડ થઈ ગયું હોય, ટાયર્ડ થઈ ગયું હોય. એટ ધેટ ટાઈમ શી મે નોટ ટેક પ્રોપર બેરિંગ ડાઉન એફર્ટ. દેટ્સ વાય વી હેવ ટુ પ્રિવેન્ટ ધ પેશન્ટ ઇન ધ ફર્સ્ટ સ્ટેજ ફ્રોમ ટેકિંગ ધ બેરિંગ ડાઉન એફર્ટ. વી જસ્ટ હેવ ટુ ચેક વેધર કોન્ટ્રેક્શન્સ આર ગુડ ઓર નોટ. ઇફ વી ફાઇન્ડ કોન્ટ્રેક્શન્સ આર ડલ, we can give homeopathic medicines to improve the contraction, or you can say to improve the pain, right? Pulsatilla is a very good drug for the weak labor pain. Then from time to time we have to check the FHS. We have to monitor the fetal heart sound, because sometimes we get the fetal distress during labor. Which are the signs of the fetal distress? How can we know fetal distress has occurred? First, persistent tachycardia in FHS. Tachycardia means increased pulse rate. The normal FHS rate at full term is 120 to 160 per minute. This is the normal FHS rate. But every time when you do the FHS, when you go for getting the FHS, you find that there is tachycardia in the FHS. Persistent tachycardia. Not once. Every time when you auscultate the abdomen of the patient, you get tachycardia. It is more than 160 per minute. It suggests that fetus is not safe. Fetus is not normal. Distress means abnormality, right? Persistent bradycardia in FHS. Sometimes the FHS is constantly below 120 per minute. Bradycardia. It again indicates fetal distress. Irregularity of the heart. Sometimes you get bradycardia, sometimes you get tachycardia, again bradycardia, tachycardia, bradycardia. So, irregularity of the heart. Heart is not functioning properly. That's why the pulse rate goes on changing. This again indicates fetal distress. Exaggerated fetal movements. You can palpate the fetal movements more often than regular. So, these also indicates fetal distress. Passage of meconium in vertex presentation. મેં તમને હમણાં જ કીધું, usually meconium is passed after birth within first 24 hours. But in vertex presentation, if meconium is passed before birth, these indicates fetal distress. It is not abnormal in the breech presentation. increasing capute in fetal head without progressive cervical dilatation. We have discussed earlier also, we consider the progress of labor in terms of cervical dilatation. So from time to time in the first stage, if cervix is dilating, that means labor is progressing. But if cervix is not dilating, that means labor is not progressing. Capute forms after the rupture of the membranes, and by the time capute goes on increasing. Capute increasing. Capute also increases the overall size of the fetal head. With this time, if cervix is not dilating, then vaginal delivery of the fetus becomes impossible. So these again indicates fetal distress. તમે અત્યારે પીવી કરો, કલાક પછી કરો, 2 કલાક પછી કરો, what you will find? Status quo. 2 finger tight જ છે, ડાયલેટ થતું જ નથી. 2 finger loose, 2 finger tight જ છે, 2 finger loose થતું નથી. That means cervix is not dilating. On the other hand, capute is increasing in the size. So fetal head size also increases. So this is going to make labor, normal delivery impossible. So you need to go for cesarean section in that case. So all these are the signs of the fetal distress. So whatever sign you get, whatever is the situation of the patient, of the fetus, accordingly you can get the decision. But the wise decision is to go for cesarean section, right? Because ultimately fetal health is on the top. Our aim is to have safe vaginal delivery. Our aim is to get the birth of the healthy newborn, right? So fetal distress should not extend, it should not continue. So when we monitor FHS from time to time during labor, we also have to assess the maternal condition, whether mother is well or not. We can assess the maternal condition by getting her blood pressure, getting her temperature, her pulse rate from time to time, right? You also find sometimes the signs of maternal distress. These signs are high pulse rate, when the pulse rate is above 100 per minute, more than 100 per minute. Exhausted face. This is especially when the patient has taken bearing down effort in the first stage of labor. Rise of temperature, that is more than 100.4 degree Fahrenheit. The tongue is dehydrated, tongue is dry. This indicates a thirsty condition of the patient. It is again due to exhaustion of the patient. Scanty urine and dry hot vagina. Vagina is not lubricant, vagina is not wet. So all these are the signs of the maternal distress, where again according to the overall condition you can take the further decision. You can decide your line of treatment. So this was about the management in the first stage. We'll discuss the management of the second stage in the further session. Okay, thank you.